It's super, because we've shown to those that think the color of our skin is a barrier that we can't clear any hurdles because we use for an excuse race and two strikes against us and so many things that we use. But we looked at that and tried to analyze it, see what it really means, and see is there any way that we can get around it. And so far we've done pretty well. But now it's been so many people that gave their life for the opportunity that we have to even sit at this table this afternoon. So I belong to you. I'm your servant. And whatever you want to talk about, the little knowledge and wisdom that I have, I'll be glad to explain how we got where we are and how we started. So it's a humble beginning. It simply started from welfare recipients. I'm 78, and I had a dream. I was between the age of 6 and 8. I don't know whether I was 6 or 6.5 or 7, 7.5 or 8. But I had a dream, my father being a sharecropper, and it was 8 of us kids, and my auntie and my uncle didn't have any children. I was fortunate enough for them to make choice of me to live with them, so I got a good chance to look at poverty, was in poverty, but having a chance to look at it from the outside, that is going and visit with my brothers and sisters and so forth. Just to break it down, when my mother, father went to town to buy candy or bought candy back from town, they had to split it 7 ways. And I made a way to get there, so it was really 8 ways. But when my uncle and auntie went to town, I had a chance to get the whole bag. So then I had an opportunity to see poverty, though I was in poverty, but to see it from its depths and how the struggle that they had. And I dreamed one night that my father turned the farm over to me. Me being the youngest of the boys, I have a sister that's younger than I am. She's deceased now. But anyhow, I talked to them about the general store. And in this dream, I told them how the landlord owned the general store, and he had every intention of taking everything that we earned, and how could we get around it. And I told them about gathering the plums and the berries and take them into the inner city and sell them. In those days, you didn't buy a 10-pound bag of flour and so forth. It was in these huge sacks or bales. But anyhow, make a long story short, they agreed with me to do that so we wouldn't have to go to the general store to buy anything. And in this dream, we was able to make our crop just from getting the berries and the plums and selling them in the inner city. And we had our crop as far as the rent was the only thing we had to pay out of it. And we sure enough had a glorious Christmas. I mean, things were going good, and I woke up. When I woke up, that's one time I wished I'd never woke up. But anyhow, I learned from that. And being pulled out of school, we wasn't dropouts in those days. We were pulled out of school. And everything that would take place, it would stir my curiosity. I wanted to know why, and I wanted to know why I saw the landlord or the owner of the farm. I saw his children going to school, and they pulled us out to work. So I want to know why and how come. Just from that, we went to school 3 months a year, and it's a little orphan Annie, the Lone Ranger, and Popeye. And this how I began to educate myself. Then some of you all might remember when Lindbergh baby was kidnapped. All right. Then I heard that story, and I started reading the newspapers. And from there, I began to get magazines and everything and start reading and so forth and so on, and not having a teacher over tell me that it wasn't talking about me, all the things that I read. I thought it was talking about the black as well as white. In other words, I thought it was talking about me. So that gave me the incentive to believe I could be what I was reading about. And that has been my fight. Now, skipping way ahead, My people moved to Kentucky, and from there they moved into Michigan. That was in the early 40s. And there I had a chance to go to the library. I had a chance to learn a lot of things from that angle. So I set out to educate myself, to do something for myself. And being the son of a sharecropper, I know what it means to struggle. I know what it means to be discriminated against. I know what it means segregation. I understand that. Excuse me. You'll make it work somehow. Sure. And from there, I began to realize what was really going on. And then going into the service, coming out from the GI Bill of Rights, I thought, you know, everything was going to fall in place and so forth. And I found out that all I could get under the GI Bill was to go back to school or build a house. And I said, I can do that without that. So then I began to look into the government to see how come and why. And from that, I began to study the system to find out how come we are people that can't get ahead, not allowed to do anything. And I went back to the Civil War between the states and picked up everything that occurred on Abe Lincoln and why the situation like it was. Right down the line when I began to do some study about the 40 acres in the mule, the foreigners and so forth. And when I found out what really happened there, we didn't get the 40 acres in the mule because that was in the freedom. So what one of the cabinet members told him, talked about being released, and we thought it was free. And that's the way it is right now. Most of us doesn't know that we're just released and not free. I think Nelson Mandela said that it's not an easy walk to freedom. You know, we are free to a degree, but I call it released. You work on freedom. And I'm thinking that's what you all are doing now. I know that's what we've been doing now. I came down to the civil rights struggle. Now, I never participated in it for as a marching and so forth, but I supported it because my thing was equal rights. And I couldn't see me being beat or whipped or put in jail to go into a place that I didn't want to go no how. You know, if you don't want me in there, I don't want to go. So, but I supported Dr. King and so forth and all the civil rights movement. There were those of us now that was fighting for, because I'm older than Dr. King, there were those of us that was fighting for civil rights and equal rights even before we ever heard of Rosa Parks. And, you know, sometimes when you say this, people think you're downplaying that. No, I'm grateful to her because when she refused to get out of the seat, she said that for me because this is what I've been talking about all the time. Because equal right was my thing. What I'm trying to say is I don't want to go into a restaurant that don't want me in there. I want to go across the street and build a restaurant. Now, on your tour, if you haven't toured, you're going to see what I'm saying. If you give them a tour, have they saw any? Well, now, what I'm saying now is almost going to sound like hot air to you. But if you...
We saw something.
Well,
I'm just saying, I'm going to be accurate.
Mhm.
The man has an accurate sense of what's going on. We saw something when we arrived. It was very impressive.
Yeah. Well, you see, then if you went to our some of our businesses, and if you've gone to our farms, if you've seen our cattle, if you've seen our processing plant, if you've seen our school, if you've seen the motels, if you've seen the shopping center, and so many things that I feel would make the playing field even. What really gave me an incentive to believe this could happen. Most of you remember when Branch Rickey gave Jackie Robinson a chance to play ball. The thing that really, because I was playing a little ball at that time, and I knew a little about baseball. But anyhow, what I was grateful to Branch Rickey for, because he gave him the same spikes, the same uniform, the same cap, the same bat, and the same glove. But he couldn't play the game for him. He had to play the game. So all I'm saying, if I can get the same spikes, the same cap, the same uniform, same ball and bat, I'll play the game. So then my struggle is to get those things. And to get those things, it's a struggle to get them, but you got to get them, and you can do it. So what happened, going back to the dream now, I'm moving as fast as I can because I know you all come a long ways, but I sure want to make sure you understand this great struggle. And pastoring a church, I pastored in Michigan. And my tithes at that time was running, now this is, we're talking about 35 years ago. And I put a large church there, and my tithes and offering was kind of impressive, let me put it that way. But I had an opportunity to come down south. And I came south. I was born in Alabama, but I came back south to preach. And when I started preaching down here, I saw the condition of the people. And there was no factories or industrial in the area. They lived from the summer chopping cotton and picking cotton and corn and so forth. And the only job that they had. And I wanted to do something about it. So at that time, I was working on the equal rights, and the civil rights then things was just going every direction and so forth. So I supported that, and you all remember Brown versus the Board of Education. And after that, I kind of got in trouble because I was very upset at Thurgood Marshall. Now my reason I needed him. And I thought what they done to him was taking him out of the arena.
They did, man.
By giving him that position where there's other 8 justices, right. And he just was token here sitting there. He couldn't do anything, but if he'd have stayed in the arena, he'd have been a great help to me because I was fighting a battle that I really needed. Good Marshall. Now, from there, in Birmingham, there was his name will come to me in just a minute. And Meg Edwards here in Mississippi, and I was in Alabama here, and that's almost it. Shuttleworth. Yes, Shuttleworth. He's in Birmingham, but we could not connect. See, all of us, there's so many of us fighting in different areas, but we weren't organized. Each one of us doing our thing to do what we could and getting in all kind of trouble, but we were trying to do what we thought need to be done to free ourselves, because freedom has always been my thing. When I was reading the funding papers of the Lone Ranger, I was told that Tonto was a hero, and Geronimo was an outcast, a notorious, the worst kind. But when I began to dig into it, I found out that Geronimo was the man, and Tonto, far as I'm concerned, had sold his people out. So everything I found out, it was just the opposite, just the other way around. And what happened, I set out, when you go down to the truck stop, if you went in there, if you went into the Greyhound, where we sell the tickets at, you see a statue there about 3 feet high. All right, it's an Indian. And to me, it's Geronimo. So when you go there, you see that, it's going to make you know a little about me. I'm Geronimo. I don't want to be fenced in. Give me liberty or give me death. That's what it's been. So I've been fighting these people for years and years, long before they organized the civil rights movement. And of course, I got in a lot of trouble. I won't even go into that. But it was fighting for my people. And that's what I believe today. That's the reason why I stopped a while ago and paused and asked you, have you seen anything? When you see this, everything you see, you're going to see me. And what I believe, when you go see the subdivision, you're going to see, I don't want to move in another man's subdivision. I want my own subdivision. So I had to build it with no help from the government, the federal government, state government, the county government, city government, and no lending institution. We built some beautiful brick homes. We built a home for the aged, sanctuary right next to it. We had to put in all the street and all the infrastructure and so forth. But it's difficult to sit here and persuade me that we can't do it. Because we can do it. Now, back in the days of the civil rights movement, and even in the days of Du Bois and Booker T, you know, Washington, if we only knew how they maneuvered to keep them apart. You see, what we haven't, well, yes, we have. What we realize now, come to understand, that people play on our difference to keep us separated. And the media is an expert at that. They know just how to do it. So they'll take our difference. During the days of Booker T, Washington, and Du Bois, they both was looking at the same goals, but they had different means of reaching that. And the other people played on that. Debates, so and so, to keep them from getting together. If they could have gotten together, man, we'd have had something. It's the same way in the civil rights movement. Red Brown and Newton and all of them could have, Roy Wilkins, because now, you know, that's NAACP. I ain't saying a great deal about that, but if they, all those heads of those organizations could have sat down, and Tony Brown done that at one time. He got them all together, and he was not able at that time, he didn't have the wisdom that he got now to master that movement, but he really, his thinking was right. To get them together, to get them to overlook that difference, or lay that difference aside, and deal with what they could agree on. And once we do that, we are powerful people. Right. And our foreparents that came from Africa, they picked the best. They didn't bring nobody who had the flu, pneumonia, and that and so forth. They picked the best brains and physical bodies they could find to bring here to do the work that could take that voyage, then get here and be sellable. These are things that we've got to understand and know from whence we came, and allow ourselves to sit down and talk like you all. Say, I admire you all. This is a great group. Because if you can put these brains together, that's what this table is about. Surely, we drink coffee in here, we have refreshments, but that's not what this table is about. This table is no different than Pentagon or no place else. We come in here, brother, and pick some brains. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Getting to that like think tank. That's all it is, a think tank. Here we are free to think. We can stay in here as long as we want because we own our own job. That's the first thing we had to do was free ourselves from under the other man's thumb, that we could be able to think, to create, to bring into existence, own it, and operate it. So then guess what happened? The farm. The farm. The old African proverb, can't no man stand if he stand on his own land. And those of you that was fortunate enough to see Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and you'll see the whole setup of the black race right there. And it was certainly exciting to me to see that, because I thought every black ought to seen that and understood where it is coming from and what the situation was. But freedom is my thing. You got to own the land. It's the first thing, you got to own the land. Now, this what you're doing is great. I just want to use, they brought us into the inner city, and how they got us in there. Where we lived, they call it the country. Out in the country, nobody wanted to be from the country. Everybody wanted to be from the city. And they know how important the land was. Even though we were sharecropping and everything else, during the Depression, we had full stomachs. We didn't have the clothing that others, but we raised what we consumed. And then we sold a lot of what we raised. And this put us in a position, not independent, but kind of independent life. Then they came up with a plan to bring us into the city. They told, so uncle, you can bring your farm animals. You can bring your cow, you can bring your chicken, and you can bring your hog. Till they got us all in the city. Then they passed an ordinance. No farm animals could be in the city. Now what they made out of was consumers. And we have to understand that everything now, every way we look, it costs us. So these are the things, it's a long range program that they set up, and each time it works. And it's worked down to the line of time. We practiced slavery without even knowing it. Those of us that worked years and years ago, these banks that stole the payers that was teaching us. And what they were doing there was embedding in us to come to the store. So they brought us to the store and paid us till we were ready. Now they don't have to bring us, even if you take us out in the ocean now on the oil rigs. When payday come, I don't care how many sharks out there, if you don't make a way for us to get to the bank, but we're going to jump aboard and swim because we got to go to his store. Now, I'm not prejudiced, and yet I am in a sense. But I'm not against, what I'm trying to say, I'm not against any race. Because I feel this, I mean, what has been done has been done. It's taken me too long to live in hate. I got too much to do to live back in slavery and everything else. So I got to use all my energy now to move ahead with what I've got. And that's been a thing all along. Now, how did we get started? The dream that I had was really the start of it. And when I was in the service, I lied to the Lord. I told him if I get back home what I was going to do, I didn't do nothing I say. But somehow he had a way of bringing me in. So after I become a minister, I did evangelistic work. And anytime I deal with the upper echelon, for as the preachers was concerned, I'd ask them, how come this and how come that? And they always gave me the same answer my father gave me. And my father was a minister, a Baptist preacher, and his thing was, what the Bible says right, but ain't nobody gonna do it. Ain't nobody gonna do it. So I set out to do it. So this particular Sunday morning, I was in Meridian, Mississippi, and I was hearing all kind of sad testimonies and that and so forth. And at that time, 96% of my congregation was welfare recipients. Now, as they sit there and testify, then I thought, when it came time to preaching, in those days I did a little running across the rosum and hoop every once in a while, but I found out it wasn't nothing to that. So this particular Sunday morning, I sit there and I realized, I said, these people can do something for themselves. So when it came my time to get up to speak, I told them it's going to be different today. I said, I haven't taken up any offering to deacon over, but today I'm going to do it. And what we're going to do in the place of giving money, we're going to take a small piece of paper and write on it whatever assistance you get, whether it's food stamp, ADC, Social Security, whether you're on a job. Don't sign your name, but write down the figures. You got the secretary and one of the officers, and they got a blackboard. And the ushers will take up that little, squeeze it tight, wrap it as tight as you can so can't nobody see it. And when we unfold them pieces of paper and put on that blackboard the money that was coming into our church, but it was the color of money now. It was not dollar bills, but it was food stamps and ADC checks and that and so forth. Boy, it was a shocker that morning. My God, the $1,000 coming, we get crying with a loaf of bread under our arm. And man, we tallied all that up. The congregation was sitting there, it's just like seeing the Lord coming, so, and then the question was, suppose we was real brothers and sisters like we say. Suppose we were one, like we preaching and teaching and praying and shouting and singing about. Suppose we was one. I said, look what we had if we were together. I said, all this money we taking across the track, our community deteriorating and look across the track how they burst. And I got them to see that. And now it wasn't easy. It was nothing like I'm telling you. It was some, I don't agree with this thing, but these things I was prepared to overcome. But anyhow, I made them understand if we had, but how I said, suppose we had a grocery store. The answer was, but we don't have one. I said, suppose we did. I said, and all of us, just our congregation, shop here. I said, look at the money. Look at the money that be coming in our church, and we sitting up here poor. And I finally cleared that huddle. They understood, yes, if we had one. Then the next thing, I said, well, you do have one. Where is it? I didn't know about having no church. I said, he's sitting in it. Boom. Here go another fight. Be the church. Then I got to go to all this business about brick, mortar, shingles, concrete, nails. It's not a church. You are the church. The people are the church. I said, tomorrow, if we leave out of this building not to come back, it could become a pool room, beer tavern, anything else, because this is a building. I got them to understand that we were the church. So when I cleared that huddle, the next thing now is, we see now, this is just brick and mortar and so forth. It's not a church. Now we got a store. How are we going to get the groceries? I said, if I can go down and convince the wholesaler to let us have grocery for 30 days, will you come? Now, at that time, if you didn't know how to budget, you were just in trouble. They gave you a food stamp from the 1st through the 3rd. That was all of them. They wouldn't give you part on the 1st and part on the 15th. It wasn't that way. You had to learn how to budget. So I said, if everybody will agree to come and buy their groceries, I'll go talk to the grocery man. And they agreed. All right, we're ready now. I went and talked to the wholesaler, and I told him about the grocery and would he let us have it for 30 days. And he said, well, yes, he would. Then from there, I hustled down to the city hall, got a vendor's license, and right across the hall at that time, all you had to do was to get the authorization for food stamp, have a projection. And I projected something. I projected something now. So they wouldn't know all the details, because at this time they wasn't paying me any attention. I just run around talking. But anyhow, I got the authorization there to receive food stamp. So we didn't know anything about marking up grocery. We didn't know anything about 22, 32, 42. We didn't know about marking up. So what we did, we got together, and 6 of our people, we sent them to 3 different supermarkets. That's after we got together and decided on, what the fight was. We all didn't use the same brand of salt, shortening, washing powder, and that's another huddle I had to cross and make them know, they make it all in the same plants. You carry your label and put it on it, and it's yours, So we cleared that huddle. So now we all using the same washing powder, same shortening, same baking, the same thing. This is a oneness without even knowing it. So everybody agreed, and what we did, because we didn't have at that time the price of to put on all of the food, we just a long table put everything out there and the price of it, because we had agreed if we was gonna get 5 pounds of sugar, that's what everybody got. If it's 5 pounds of flour, that's what everybody. So we just had to put the price on one item. This was to be competitive with the supermarket. And don't let nobody fool you. People say there ain't nothing in grocery. You see all these people alive?
That's right.
It's something in grocery.
Agriculture spawned civilization.
That's exactly right. And without agriculture, we'd be in trouble right today. But anyhow, we on our way now. All right, so when the wholesaler brought, on the last day of the month, he brought the for us, and then they got their food stamp, and in 3 days, everybody had their grocery, and enough groceries to last the whole month now. And we had a lot of groceries left. Then the next thing now is go down to the bank and open up a checking account. Well, the wholesaler looking for his money in 30 days, we gave it to him in 6 days. Now he happy. But now when we put those, what we didn't know or what I didn't know, when you deposit the food stamps, in 24 hours, magic take place. They're no longer food stamps, they're dollars. So the fellow that didn't even qualify for food stamps, he can get the food stamps the next day. He can pay his overhead, all the utilities, whatever he have to pay. And his house no